My father was an ordinary soldier. During the war against the Turks, he saved the crown prince's life, who was disguised as a common soldier. Later, when the crown prince ascended the throne, he bestowed upon my father the title of Marquis of Loyalty and Valor. I was also granted a marriage to Feng Shuyuan, the youngest son of the Minister of Works. But Feng Shuyuan was in love with his cousin and refused to marry me. He even brought his cousin to humiliate me. How vulgar and coarse. Fat and stupid as a pig. Yet she dares dream of marrying me. I beat him senseless and dragged him before the emperor. Your Majesty, he has grievances against you. After the crown prince ascended the throne, he infected my father as Marquis of Loyal Valor and granted him the official post of commander of the Imperial Guard, tasked with safeguarding the palace. Truthfully, my father's martial skills weren't exceptional, but he was tall, dark, and sturdy, honest and straightforward. Just standing there, he somehow made people feel at ease. The emperor used him like a guardian beast for the palace. Like my father, I'm tall and robust. But I'm not dark-skinned. I inherited my mother's fair complexion. I consider myself a sturdy beauty. Sadly, all these years, no one but my parents has ever appreciated me. My father was a simple man, having read few books. Yet he held scholars in high esteem, hoping I would marry a man of vast learning and exceptional talent. He discussed this with the emperor, who then betrothed me to Feng Shuyuan. He was the son of the Minister of Works. His reputation for talent was renowned. He was as graceful as orchids and as noble as a jade tree. My father was quite pleased when he saw Feng Shuyuan's portrait. But Feng Shuyuan was far from pleased. He had a beloved, his cousin, and they were already discussing marriage. Yet when the emperor asked his father if he had a betrothed, his father said no. So he cornered me in a narrow alley, accompanied by his gentle, beautiful cousin, and proceeded to criticize me freely. Coarse and vulgar, fat and stupid as a pig. His cousin also wore a look of disgust. Miss Wang, you really should eat less. I didn't waste words with him. My palm, as big as a fan, smacked him straight across the face. He fell to the ground, blood spurting from his nose. His cousin shrieked. I sneered coldly, utterly puny. A complete waste of space. He stared at me in disbelief, his face bearing the bright red imprint of my hand. I grabbed his collar, and his cousin shrieked again. I shot her a chilling glance. She covered her mouth in terror, not daring to utter another sound, her body shaking like a sieve. I dragged Feng Shuyuan into the palace. He was about my height but not as sturdy. He tried several times to break free from my iron grip, but it was futile. I mocked him, eat more. Weakling. All the way, he stumbled along with his head down, afraid someone would recognize him. But I greeted everyone enthusiastically, even lifting him up for all to see. His nose hadn't even dried from bleeding, he was covered in grime. His cheeks swollen and red, every trace of his usual haughty pride gone. I dumped him before the emperor and reported, Your Majesty, he has grievances against you. Feng Shuyuan's face drained white as he hastily cowed out in loyalty. Your Majesty sees clearly. This servant's heart is wholly devoted to you, without a single thought of disloyalty. The emperor shot him a glance. Frowning, what's going on? Feng Shuyuan stepped in front of me to speak, reporting. He'd barely uttered one word when the emperor cut him off. Let her speak. Feng Shuyuan tilted his head slightly to gaze at me. His wide, frightened eyes swiftly clouded over, the corners reddening as sorrow filled his face. My heart softened. But I've always been stubborn. I recounted every detail of how Feng Shuyuan had humiliated me with his cousin. His Majesty erupted in fury. How dare you? He seized the paperweight from the desk and hurled it at Feng Shuyuan. The Zetan Wood Qilin struck Feng Shuyuan squarely on the forehead, blood gushing forth. Feng Shuyuan's face turned deathly pale. His Majesty coldly demanded, "So you are dissatisfied with this marriage personally bestowed by the Emperor?" "Your Majesty, forgive me." Feng Shuyuan buried his head deep into the ground. This servant was momentarily bewitched and offended Princess Wang. "I harbor no dissatisfaction with this marriage." "Is that so?" The Emperor raised his voice, his authoritative tone carrying a weighty pressure as he spoke slowly. "Truthfully, I am not an autocratic emperor. If you truly dislike this match, speak up boldly. I can dissolve the engagement for you." Feng Shuyuan trembled in terror, unable to lift his head. Cold sweat mingled with blood beads dripped from his forehead onto the ground. "This servant is quite satisfied with Lady Wang," he said, summoning his last ounce of courage. After Feng Shuyuan left, His Majesty kept me behind for a private conversation. He apologized to me and rewarded me with a box of jewels. It turned out he had betrothed me to Feng Shuyuan specifically to spite his family. Last year, the third princess had taken a fancy to Feng Shuyuan. But in our dynasty, imperial consorts are barred from holding official positions. His Majesty had hinted at this delicately, and Minister Feng had declined just as delicately. The Emperor had been seething inside. He was certain Minister Feng wouldn't dare refuse a second time. So he feigned concern and asked for the Feng family's opinion. Sure enough, Minister Feng didn't dare utter a single word of protest. But now, after hearing Feng Shuyuan's insults directed at me, the Emperor felt a pang of regret. If he dares to speak to you like this now, how could you possibly have a good life after marrying into their family? Your father saved my life. Yet I thrust his only daughter into this inferno. My conscience gnaws at me. Alas! The imperial decree is sealed. My word is law, leaving no room for reversal. He looked deeply troubled. Just as I was about to offer comfort, he abruptly changed the subject. But then again, had Feng Shuyuan threatened suicide or clung stubbornly to his position? And had Minister Feng then humbly begged for demotion and salary reduction while weeping? I might have reluctantly relented out of compassion for an old minister, allowing myself one reversal. Alas! Feng Shuyuan lacked the courage. Even after I gave him such clear hints. I was stunned, Your Majesty. Are you certain you weren't just threatening him? The Emperor looked utterly sincere. I meant every word. I flattered him. My father often told me that when he saved your life, it wasn't his own skill. It was because Your Majesty is the true dragon-born emperor, protected by the dragon's aura. Even without him, someone else would have been drawn by that aura to save you. He was grateful Your Majesty chose him, granting him this chance to protect you, a chance to defy fate itself. Therefore, Your Majesty, I believe every decision you make is correct. The Emperor was deeply moved. I withdrew, cradling the box. As I walked, I couldn't resist opening it to peek inside. Jewel-encrusted splendor, resplendent with gold and brilliance, it nearly blinded me. I accidentally bumped into someone. Given my stature, few could dislodge me. I stood firm while the person across from me staggered slightly before regaining their footing. My apologies. I wasn't paying attention. Are you all right? I apologized, meeting his gaze. He was a strikingly handsome man, clad in dark brocade robes, with a high nose and deep-set eyes. His face bore a cool, distant expression. Taller than the average man, he had a broad frame. I recognized him. The former 9th prince, now the Prince of Jing'an, His Majesty's youngest brother, Shao Zijin. His mother was a princess from a foreign land. Married to the court for peace, he carried half-foreign blood. He visibly startled, swiftly scanning me from head to toe before replying. I'm fine. I wasn't paying attention either. Even as I walked away, I felt a searing gaze fixed on my back. Turning, I saw Prince Jing'an still staring at me. I raised my arm to wave at him. My sleeve slipped down, revealing my thick, muscular arm. Prince Jing'an turned and walked away, picking up speed after a few steps. My father learned about my beating Feng Shuyuan that very night. The emperor must have told him. He said nothing, only asked if I'd been hurt. My mother gently pinched my chubby cheek. You silly boy. Next time remember to strip him naked before dragging him away. I felt my father shudder. By the next day, the story had spread throughout the city. My grandmother and my second uncle's family heard it too. The Wang family hadn't split up. They lived with my grandmother in the Marquis of Loyal Courage's mansion. After my father left, my grandmother immediately called my mother and me over. My second aunt and her 2 sons and 1 daughter were there too. My grandmother brought up the old issue. It's no good that Mei Li doesn't have a brother. She has to handle such rough work as hitting people herself. Being a girl. True. I was my parents' only child. After giving birth to me, my mother's womb remained barren. They'd once feared I'd be bullied, resorting to herbal remedies and religious rituals hoping for a younger brother to protect me. But as I grew stronger, they counted themselves blessed I didn't bully others. The idea of a younger brother faded. But to my grandmother, having no son meant the family line would die out, a catastrophe of the highest order. She couldn't bear to watch her eldest son leave no heir. Even before my father became a marquis, she'd urged him and mother to adopt a cousin. But they always refused. Now that my father is a marquis, with his title and estate, the Wang family's inheritance should rightfully remain within the Wang lineage. My grandmother lay awake at night, fretting over it. She and my second aunt whispered about it constantly, until she finally seized her chance. I pretended not to understand, no problem. I just love hitting people myself. It feels good. Second aunt smiled sweetly. Mei Li, you're still young and don't understand. Once a woman marries, if her natal family has no living brothers, she'll be bullied in her in-laws' home. With your temper, you especially need brothers to back you up. She pushed Wang Qiming and Wang Chongding toward my mother. Sister-in-law, which one do you prefer? Either of us will do. We're family, it's only right we help each other. Mei Li will marry someday. When you're gone, you won't even have someone to perform the ritual of smashing the ceremonial bowl. Will you? My second uncle was a scholar. Though after 30 years of study, he never advanced further. But that didn't stop him from thinking highly of himself. In my grandmother's eyes, he was the embodiment of the literary star incarnate. Wang Qiming and Wang Chongding were names he picked from the Book of Songs. And his daughter was named Wang Shuyao, also from that text. I find it too much trouble. To me, they're just big brother, second brother, and third brother. Second aunt must have mentioned this privately to them. Big brother and second brother lifted their faces as high as they could, showing every angle of their features. Mother chuckled, stroking both children's chins like puppies. This isn't my decision to make, she said. We'll wait until the Marquis returns. But both Grandma and second aunt knew Mother held the real authority in our household. Persuading her meant Father would naturally agree. Big brother pleaded. Auntie, choose me. I'm obedient, hardworking, and can endure hardship. I'll take good care of you in the future. Heir said. Auntie, choose me. I'm studious. When I pass the imperial exams, I'll be big sister's pillar of support. San quietly edged closer to me. Big sister, can I be adopted as your daughter? 1 more won't hurt. 2 more won't hurt. I'll forever be your most loyal servant. Ada and Heir flew into a rage, scrambling toward me. Wang Shuyao, you're playing dirty. That's despicable. Big sister, I'm your most loyal servant. I am. All right. They're fighting. My grandmother and second aunt were dumbfounded. Especially second aunt, she looked utterly devastated. Her 3 kids all wanted to come to my house. She didn't stop to think that I was the leader of the kids in the village. I looked out for my 3 younger brothers and sisters. They'd long since followed my lead. Just as the commotion was happening, a servant came to report that Mrs. Feng Shuyuan's mother had arrived. The Feng family had always looked down on ours. Logically, after the 2 families were connected by marriage, they should have been able to visit each other. But the Feng family had never once acknowledged us. Today was a first, like a maiden stepping into her wedding sedan chair. I gave a soft cough, and the boys immediately stopped their commotion, standing properly behind second aunt. Madame Feng brought only one maidservant. Feng Shuyuan wasn't with her. He probably hadn't dared show his face in public for quite some time. The eldest daughter of the Ho household is so arrogant. Who knows whose backing she has? But she strikes people at the slightest provocation. Such insolence and malice, you wouldn't find another like her in all the capital. Is this how the old lady of the in-laws raised her granddaughter? Madame Feng told my grandmother she assumed my grandmother was the head of our household. My grandmother fell silent for a moment before asking blankly, "Who is this eldest daughter?" Madame Feng. My mother stood up. She had a plump, jade-like face, a chubby, endearing look that made anyone assume she had a gentle temperament. And indeed, she spoke softly. Our Meili always acts reasonably. She never strikes anyone without cause. I imagine your son must have said something unpleasant. My mother was somewhat educated. Madame Feng snorted coldly. My son didn't say anything wrong. You've raised your daughter to look like a pig. What girl is like her? Her arms are thicker than my son's. Her waist like a barrel. Her legs like pillars. Her belly like she's 3 or 4 months pregnant. She could break a chair just by sitting down. My mother's face darkened, but her tone remained unchanged, even carrying a hint of amusement. Should she be like you, madam? Skin and bones. No curves anywhere, flat as a board. Doesn't Lord Feng get confused at night? He must be terrified every time. Madame Feng could scarcely believe her ears. Her face flushing crimson. You're vulgar. My mother smiled faintly. Vulgar my ass. Madame Feng shrieked. My mother's smile remained steady. Fuck your ancestors 18 generations back. Madame Feng, pushed beyond endurance, lunged forward to strike my mother. Before she could draw near, my mother landed 2 resounding slaps across her face. You dare strike me. My mother delivered 2 more slaps. Now, can you find a second one like me in all of Beijing? The old woman accompanying Madame Feng tried to intervene, but I swept her leg out from under her, sending her sprawling face first into the dirt. After my mother had whipped Mrs. Feng into a pig's head, I half-heartedly pulled her away. Mrs. Feng, I said. His Majesty said I beat Feng Shuyuan well and splendidly. You came here demanding retribution. Are you questioning His Majesty's words? Mrs. Feng left in tears. My mother calmly smoothed her hair and slowly turned to my grandmother and second aunt. Continue. My grandmother and second aunt both flinched simultaneously. 8. The marriage alliance turned into enmity. After returning home, my mother sighed. I acted too impulsively. She wasn't afraid I'd fight the Feng family after marrying in. She feared they'd strike me down in the shadows. Childbirth. Confinement, there were too many opportunities for them to act. She felt a twinge of regret and urged me to practice boxing. My father had taught me martial arts, but I only mastered 2 moves, the left punch and the right punch. In the realm of martial arts, speed is the ultimate defense. Armed with these 2 techniques and my imposing stature, I've never been defeated. Feng Shuyuan requested a meeting. In the private room of the restaurant, his ceremonial hat rested on the table. This time he didn't bring his cousin, and his demeanor was much friendlier. Last time, I was in the wrong. I was simply too angry. I never meant to insult you, Miss I only wanted you to recognize the difficulty and withdraw. Ashamed of yourself. So you wouldn't obstruct my marriage to my cousin as a secondary wife. I curved my lips. I didn't intend to strike you either. I just wanted you to recognize your mistake and reform. See? You've reformed quite well. Haven't you? Feng Shui Yuan poured me tea, Miss Wang. There's no need for hostility. I came today to discuss annulling our engagement. Since you have no affection for me, there's no point in affection. I cut him off. He froze, staring at me, his mouth slightly agape, speechless for a long moment. After a while, he stammered, you. Today is only our second meeting. I fell for you at first sight. First sight and you hit me? Hitting is affection. Scolding is love. His face flushed, as if suddenly inspired by some thought. He straightened his back, regaining the arrogance and superiority he displayed when we first met. Since you have feelings for me, he said, we won't call off the engagement for now. After all, it was His Majesty who arranged this match. Actually breaking it off would be quite troublesome. I nodded. He grew more eloquent by the moment. I suppose last time you flew into such a rage because I brought my cousin along. But women are more likable when they're docile. I prefer quiet, gentle women like my cousin. You should learn from her. Her background, knowledge, and perspective all surpass yours. You scared my cousin last time. Come apologize to her here tomorrow. She likes the jewelry from the treasure pavilion. Buy her a set. She's generous and kind-hearted, she won't hold it against you. Your mother also struck my mother. She was furious for days after returning home. Have your mother come personally to apologize to mine. I yawned. He wasn't finished yet. His gaze fixed on my face, truthfully. Your features are striking. And your bone structure is excellent. If you could just slim down, you'd be absolutely beautiful. Thanks. But I think I'm perfectly fine as I am. But I prefer slimmer girls, like my cousin, with delicate limbs and a waist like a willow branch. If you could slim down, I'd gladly welcome you into my home. Feng Shui Yuan put on his hooded cape and left first. Half a cup of tea later, I opened the door to go downstairs and bumped right into Prince Jing'an. What a coincidence. I curtsied, addressing him as Ninth Master since we were outside. He nodded, then suddenly asked, have you eaten? Let me treat you to dinner. Huh? I was a bit stunned. He waited patiently for my reply. Generally, I never refuse an invitation to eat. Prince Jing'an ordered 11 dishes, filling the table completely. At such high-end restaurants, portions are small and exquisite. Despite the full table, I only ate 3 large bowls of rice. It was just that kind of meal. After eating our fill, Prince Jing'an offered to escort me home. No need. I protested. How could I let a young lady walk home alone? He countered. Do you even hear yourself? Am I just any ordinary girl? Truth be told, Prince Jing'an was more imposing than most men, yet walking beside him still drew considerable attention. After all, imposing men were commonplace, but imposing women were exceedingly rare. Passing a goldsmith's, he asked, want jewelry? I'll buy it for you. Passing a silk shop, he asked, need clothes? I'll buy them for you. Passing a pastry shop, he asked, hungry? I'll buy you something. I couldn't refuse. If I didn't pick something, he'd empty the entire store. By the time we reached home, each of Prince Jing'an's 4 attendants carried 7 or 8 gift boxes. I felt terribly embarrassed. Though my family had recently risen from poverty, I understood the saying, a gift in hand is a debt in the heart. Does your highness require my service? No. Then why did you bestow these gifts upon me? Prince Jing'an looked at me. He was strikingly handsome, his features more profound than most. Even his gaze toward a dog seemed deeply affectionate. Isn't it obvious? I'm pursuing you. I didn't sleep a wink that night. It was too sudden. In my 20 years, this was the first time a man hadn't come to make me his subordinate. But to court me. I was a bit overwhelmed, tossing and turning in bed, kicking my legs and lifting my hips. Then, crash! The bed collapsed. I gave up on sleep. At first light, I headed straight to Prince Jingin's residence. The gatekeeper, an old man, yawned as he opened the side gate. After glancing at me, he suddenly rubbed his eyes fiercely. Good heavens! Finally, a woman came calling for our prince, even if she is a big one. I pretended not to hear. He had someone escort me to see the Prince of Jingin. At this hour, the prince was already up, practicing martial arts in the courtyard. When the servant went to report, he lifted his eyes to look at me, then beckoned. He wasn't wearing a shirt, revealing thick arms and a firm abdomen, chest muscles, abs, every muscle in place. He looked even more imposing than when clothed. I approached, and he still showed no intention of dressing. Wait a moment. He hadn't finished his practice. I sat on a stone bench, sipping tea and nibbling pastries while watching him wield his spear. Those 2 mounds on his chest nearly rivaled Madame Fang's. Recalling my mother's scolding of Madame Feng, I couldn't help but chuckle. Prince Jingin grew even more animated in his practice. After finishing his spear routine, he approached me. We stood separated by a stone table. Suddenly, he bent low, his fingers brushing through my hair. A dry leaf. 2 mounds abruptly loomed large before my eyes, beads of sweat glistening upon them. Looking up, I saw his slightly trembling Adam's apple. Looking down, I saw his brick-like abdominal muscles. At eye level, 2 crimson dots danced lightly. Good heavens! I'm a perfectly normal woman in the prime of life. 2 streams of blood flowed from my nostrils. Prince Jingin ordered someone to fetch a physician. I stopped him. Too humiliating. In the end, he had someone cut 2 clean cotton strips, rolled them into balls, and stuffed them into my nostrils. He finally deigned to put his clothes back on, with 2 green onions wedged in my nose. I spoke to him in a muffled voice. Your Highness said yesterday he wanted to court me, but we've only met once. I waved at him, and he took off running. I stated the facts plainly, but upon hearing this, Prince Jingin's face suddenly flushed crimson. Does your Highness dislike me? No. Need to pee? No. Then what is it? He couldn't bring himself to say it. I grew angry. Hiding your feelings is ungentlemanly. I stood up to leave. He grabbed my wrist. His palm was scorching hot. I could feel the heat even through my clothes. He stammered, forced to speak yet sounding aggrieved. Want you. Want me for what? Just, I want you. I frowned. Then it dawned on me. I stared at him in shock, yanking my arm back. He added, I possess extraordinary endowments, far more than ordinary men. I've never married, fearing common women might. I actually understood. That day you bumped into me. I saw your figure and realized we were perfectly matched. Later, when you waved at me and exposed your arm, That's why I fled in panic. I understood again. The moment I see you, I think of that kind of thing. I don't want to, but I can't control myself. I wanted to poke out my own ears. He gazed at me, his eyes intense and sincere, his Adam's apple bobbing. I'm thinking about it now too. I fled home. My mother stood in my room, staring thoughtfully at the collapsed bed. Where did you go so early this morning? What's that in your nose? I pulled out the cotton strip, the bleeding had stopped. I explained, I had a nosebleed. But it's fine now. Mother scrutinized me, narrowing her eyes. Why would you get a nosebleed out of nowhere? She whispered. Did you have a wet dream? You even broke the bed. The Prince of Jing'an flashed instantly through my mind. And my face burned fiercely. No. Don't talk nonsense. The maid said she heard you muttering something about 9. Did you dream of 9 at once? My mother firmly believed I was experiencing adolescent desires. She wanted me to marry Feng Shuyuan sooner, yet feared the Feng family might harm me after I entered their household. I said, we could have Feng Shuyuan marry into our family. Mother's eyes lit up, but quickly dimmed. How could the Fengs possibly agree? I replied, His Majesty only decreed the marriage, he never specified who marries whom. Of course. His intent was clearly for me to marry into the Fengs. But I could twist his meaning. Having Feng Shuyuan marry into my family would honor the imperial decree, satisfy the emperor's desire for revenge, and spare him any lingering guilt toward me. 3 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of Feng Shuyuan reminded me of his request yesterday, that I apologized to his cousin. He even wanted me to buy her jewelry. Dream on. I arrived empty-handed. Half an hour late. Feng Shuyuan's cousin, Si Qingyu, came from a family that had fallen on hard times. She'd been raised in the Feng household since childhood. She and Feng Shuyuan were childhood sweethearts, though she was Lady Feng's own niece. Lady Feng didn't think much of her. Supporting her maternal family was one thing, looking down on them for their decline was quite another. But Lady Feng must be kicking herself now. Compared to Si Qingyu, I was a peasant at heart, with no family background to speak of. My father, newly enfeoffed as the Marquis of Loyal Valor, was utterly insignificant in their eyes. I pushed open the door and entered the private room. Surprisingly, they hadn't stormed out in a huff. Feng Shuyuan's gaze fell on my hands. Why didn't you buy anything? I sat down. Well, I didn't. Si Qingyu, seated across from me, looked slightly displeased at this. She wore an exquisitely ornate gown, yet carried no jewelry, likely intending to use whatever I purchased. It's fine. She forced a smile. Jewelry matters little as long as Miss Wang's heart is sincere. This is what we'll do, pour me a cup of tea, and I'll forgive her. Feng Shuyuan shot her a pitying glance. You're far too easygoing. Then he urged me, hurry up. I poured the tea and raised the cup. Si Qingyu reached out to take it, her smug smile impossible to hide. I suddenly jerked my hand, shattering the cup in my grasp. Shards flew everywhere. Si Qingyu shrieked and jumped back. Feng Shuyuan yelled, Wang Meili, have you lost your mind? Humph. I sneered. As if she deserved my respect. I stormed off. After that, Feng Shuyuan never bothered me again, until envoys arrived from Yu Kingdom, and the palace hosted a banquet. Both my mother and I were invited, but she was so nervous she got an upset stomach before departure. Fearing delays, she insisted I go alone. My father had gone on duty early that morning. At such lively occasions, his workload actually increased. At the palace gates, I encountered Feng Shuyuan's family. Si Qingyu was nowhere to be seen. She had no standing to attend such court banquets. Madame Feng shot me a glance, her eyes brimming with loathing, then turned her head away expressionlessly, pretending not to see me. Feng Shuyuan hesitated briefly before approaching to speak with me. Thanks to Prince Jing'an, my appetite had dwindled lately, and I'd lost quite a bit of weight. Feng Shuyuan still believed I was dieting for him. He scrutinized me from head to toe, nodding approvingly. Not bad. You've listened to me. But it's still not enough. You need to be as thin as your cousin. About that last incident, he said, my cousin returned home so frightened she fell ill. I know you were upset by my closeness with her, But a man having multiple wives and concubines is commonplace. You must accept this sooner rather than later. Jealousy is not the mark of a virtuous wife. I frowned, finding myself unwilling to exchange even a single word with him. He inquired again, "Where is your mother?" Before I could respond, he continued speaking to himself, "You feared my mother would see her and become enraged. So you didn't invite her? Good for you. Next month, my mother will host a flower viewing banquet. Bring your mother then and apologize to mine publicly. Let her beat or scold you both, if you refuse. I'll never speak to you again. Even if you married me by imperial decree, I'll make sure you sleep alone." He threatened me. If we hadn't been at the palace gates, I'd have slapped him again. Anyway, he's easy to fool. He believes whatever I say. I won't come. Since you're being obedient. What? You won't come? He stared at me in shock. I blurted out, "As long as I can marry you, I'd gladly sleep alone in an empty bed." I'd completely thrown him off. It seemed like I was deeply devoted to him. But my actions told a different story. He started to lose confidence. Suddenly, a commotion erupted. Someone whispered, "Prince Jing'an has arrived." The clamor died instantly. Conversations ceased. Everyone held their breath, bowed their heads, and respectfully greeted the prince. I glanced up at him quickly. He stared straight ahead, expressionless, like a monk who had renounced the world, detached from all earthly desires. As he passed by me, his left foot suddenly tripped over his right, sending him lunging forward. I swiftly reached out and caught him securely, but he recoiled as if burned, violently flinging my hand away. "Don't touch me!" His words instantly flashed through my mind. "The moment I see you, I think of that thing. I don't want to, but I can't control myself." My eyes instinctively darted downward. I couldn't see clearly, catching my movement out of the corner of his eye. A flicker of embarrassment crossed his face. He quickened his pace and dashed away like the wind. Silence hung over the palace gate for a moment. Suddenly, someone murmured softly, "Prince Jing'an seems to really dislike Miss Wang." All eyes turned toward me. Some gazes held sympathy. Others schadenfreude. Madame Fong laughed cheerfully, deliberately raising her voice. Perhaps His Highness was startled seeing such a stout young lady for the first time. Others joined in the laughter. I laughed too, looking in Madame Feng's direction and speaking just as loudly, "Congratulations, Madame Fong. A stout young lady like me will soon be your daughter-in-law. You'll be startled every day." Her laughter stopped. The others laughed even louder. Feng Shuyuan looked displeased. Ever since our arranged marriage was decreed, he'd endured constant ridicule, some mocking my figure, others predicting he'd be oppressed by me and never have a good life. He was determined to assert his authority as husband before this crowd. He immediately raised his voice to scold me. "Nonsense. How dare you speak to my mother like that? Apologize." I spoil him. I patted his cheek. "Stop causing trouble. Just wait patiently for me to come marry you." His face flushed instantly. His eyes darted around frantically as he fumed. "What nonsense are you spouting?" The Fong family's faces darkened like the bottom of a pot. I couldn't be bothered with them anymore and strode straight into the palace. Behind me, someone burst into loud laughter. Another voice whispered, "Guess who's on top and who's on bottom. The visitor from you was a princess, beautiful and petite." As the wine flowed freely, she stepped forward to demonstrate martial arts, then declared haughtily, "The women of you are all valiant and skilled in battle. Great Zhou is a mighty nation, surely its princesses are equally formidable." She challenged the princess to a duel. The emperor looked troubled, and several princesses shifted uneasily. They were all pampered young ladies, even the few with fiery tempers and arrogant dispositions had never touched martial arts. Seeing this, The Yu princess's pride nearly made her tail wag. Surely not. Surely not. In the vast land of Great Zhou, not a single princess knows martial arts. I had been waiting for this moment and stepped forward without hesitation. She paused, sizing me up. Who are you? I replied. I am the third princess's disciple. I intended to curry favor with the third princess, though her rejection by the Feng family had nothing to do with me. I couldn't rule out malicious gossip. Better to be proactive than defensive. Sure enough, the third princess glanced at me with surprise and delight. I added, to challenge our princess, you must defeat me first. Our princess isn't someone just any Tom, Dick, or Harry can challenge. The Yu princess looked at me with utter disdain. Standing beside her, I resembled a giant next to a chick. She barely reached my chest. She assumed my bulky frame meant I moved slowly, dismissing me entirely. Relying on her petite stature, she fancied she could outmaneuver me. But though she was fast, I was faster. Each move was half a step quicker than hers. My strength surpassed hers too. Within 10 moves, she lay sprawled on the ground. I glanced at her with contempt. Seriously? This is the best a puny country like you can offer? This is the level of skill daring to challenge us? The hall erupted in laughter. His Majesty beamed with delight. Lord Zhongyong, you've raised a fine daughter. Reward her. He asked what reward I desired, even giving me a knowing look. He wanted me to use this chance to break off the engagement. But I didn't want to break it off. I wanted to take him as a son-in-law. Feng Shuyuan was the perfect match. Pure-blooded, handsome, with many brothers, and well-read. Most crucially, he's as weak as a kitten, pliant as clay in my hands. I said, Your Majesty, I remain profoundly grateful for the marriage you bestowed upon my daughter. This is truly a heavenly union. The Feng family's son is exceptionally talented, dignified and noble, a peerless beauty. Too much verbiage. I'd memorized a few lines after cramming all night. Time to catch my breath. Just as I was about to continue, a sudden thud echoed, followed by cries of alarm. Oh no! Oh no! Prince Jing'an has fainted. My heart skipped a beat, fearing it might be my fault. I'd been careful to avoid meeting his gaze. The imperial physician rushed over to take the prince's pulse, declaring he was merely drunk and suffering from excessive liver fire. The emperor breathed a sigh of relief and ordered the prince carried off to rest. But the drunken Prince Jing'an was unusually heavy, 4 guards couldn't lift him. In the end, my father had to step in to get him out. The Princess of Yu, her dignity lost, seized the moment to feign fainting. The Yu envoys swarmed around her in a circle, wailing and crying as if their princess were dying. The banquet ended early. The emperor, weary, tapped me with his hand. Love-struck fool. Think carefully about the rewards I've set aside for you. The third princess hurried over and whispered to me, I never blamed you. Feng Shuyuan lingered until most people had left, then darted over to stand beside me. I didn't realize I held such high regard in your heart. He was deeply moved. Rest assured, once you lose weight and enter my household, I'll treat you and my cousin equally. He seemed to have forgotten what I said at the palace gates. I went to find my father. My mother hadn't been able to attend the palace banquet, so I wanted to pack some delicacies for her. But my father was busy and couldn't spare the time for me. A considerate palace attendant came to inquire about me, telling me to wait patiently. After a while, it was Prince Jing'an who arrived instead. 2 attendants followed behind him, each carrying 2 food boxes. Our eyes met, and his words began looping in my mind. The moment I see you, I think of that kind of thing. I don't want to, but I can't control myself. Ah! I felt like a boiled shrimp, steam billowing out of me. I instinctively took a step back. Prince Jing'an looked downcast. Don't hate me. I'm not that despicable. I didn't know what to say. He escorted me out of the palace, having servants load the food boxes into my carriage. The moon hung high, the night breeze carrying a faint chill. After dismissing the attendants, he whispered, "Do you truly like Feng Shuyan that much? After marrying him, could you still have affairs with me? Just once a month would be enough." Me? How could he utter such words with such solemn, icy composure? "Your Highness, I'll be honest, I don't like Feng Shuyan. I want to take a son-in-law. And he's suitable." Earlier in the hall, I actually intended to ask His Majesty to decree a son-in-law for me. I could become a son-in-law too. He said I could bring all my wealth and the entire mansion would adopt your family name. "Your Highness, don't do this. It's hard for me to refuse you like this." His eyes lit up instantly. "Let's have a duel," I said. "I like men who can protect me." We couldn't fight near the palace gates, so we moved further away. He bowed his hands toward me, "Forgive me." Having witnessed his physique and knowing he trains daily, I dared not take him lightly. Yet within 3 moves, he was defeated. I furrowed my brow, suspecting he'd held back. His face flushed crimson with embarrassment. "That doesn't count. Let's start over." He bent down, tore a strip of cloth to blindfold himself, and assumed a fighting stance. "I'm usually not this weak. It's just that when I see you, I can't focus. The moment we touch, my whole body goes limp." I reached out and pulled the cloth from his eyes, staring at him. "Your Highness, what happens when you miss me?" Suddenly, he pulled me into his arms and fell backward. My weight wasn't light, and as I landed, I heard him grunt. "Like this," he said. That was unexpected. "Me on top? MHM. Sometimes you whip me with a little leather strap. Sometimes you tie me up with ropes. Sometimes you make me kneel and call you master." He swallowed, his breath heavy. I felt his heartbeat, violent, urgent, as if it might leap from his chest into mine. I looked up at him. His eyes were burning. His body was burning. And his burning rod was burning too. Realizing what it was, I jumped up. "Enough. Stop talking." I went home. It was already very late. Prince Jing'an insisted on seeing me off, saying, "It's unsafe for a young lady to walk home alone at night." The coachman shot him a look that seemed to say, "Am I not human?" My father hadn't returned yet. Sometimes he stayed overnight at the palace when it got too late. My mother waited for me the whole time. She assumed court banquets ran this late. She unwrapped each packed dish one by one, and as she looked, her appetite grew. I had the kitchen reheat the food. Just as it was served, Ada and the others scurried over. They sat down and started eating without hesitation. My mother was surprised. "Aren't you asleep at this hour?" I replied, "They must have been waiting, hoping I'd bring back something delicious." Ada and air, mouths stuffed full, could only nod silently and give me thumbs up. Ah-san ate more politely, saying between bites, "Sister, I will always be loyal to you." My mother laughed heartily. Ada and air shot her angry glances, swallowed their food with difficulty, and hurriedly shouted at me, "Sister, we'll always be loyal to you too." Only after the Yu delegation departed did I approach the emperor to request my reward. My father, present at court, looked at me with surprise. When he realized I'd come for my reward, he shot me a warning glance, hinting I shouldn't ask for anything too extravagant. This time, I dared not play coy. Skipping the pleasantries, I went straight to the point. "Your Majesty," I said, "I wish to annul the betrothal." My father's small eyes widened. The emperor raised his eyebrows dramatically. "What? You wish to break off the engagement? You dare to break off the engagement? Do you know what you're saying? The imperial decree has already been issued. My word is law, how can it be changed on a whim? I am no emperor who changes his mind overnight. You are challenging my authority. My father broke out in a cold sweat, his knees buckling as he prepared to kneel and plead on my behalf. But, the emperor continued, you have blunted the sharp edge of Yu's might for great Zhou, raised our nation's prestige, and brought glory to our country. I shall pardon you this once. My father's knees straightened again. Since I promised you a reward, I cannot go back on my word. The previous promise is null and void. The annulment of the betrothal is granted. Within days, an imperial edict shall be delivered to your household and the Feng family. My father was still reeling from the news. After I left, he rushed out to ask, my daughter, why did you annul the betrothal? I had my fortune told. I said. The diviner said he would bring me misfortune. My father nodded frantically, then you must annul it. When I told my mother, she was astonished, but you said you wanted to take him as a son-in-law. Did he refuse? I've found a better match. Who? I hesitated for a long time before finally saying, you'll see when the time comes. The invitation to Mrs. Feng's flower banquet eventually reached our home. My mother glanced at it and tossed it into the chicken coop. I hadn't planned to attend either. But Feng Shuyuan specifically wrote me a letter, insisting I bring my mother. He also instructed her not to wear makeup or jewelry, to dress in plain colors, and to carry a bundle of thorn branches. How audacious. I decided to stir up trouble. Why so late? I deliberately arrived after the start time. Feng Shuyuan personally came to the gate to wait for me. Seeing only me, he asked, where's your mother? She didn't come. I walked in while speaking, him trailing behind, muttering irritably, you couldn't persuade her? No. If you can't handle such trivial matters, how will you manage the household later? I think it's best to leave the inner quarters to my cousin. I shrugged indifferently, whatever. At least you know your place. Unable to keep pace, he broke into a light jog, panting, since your mother isn't here, you'll repay her debt yourself. He paused, then continued, you'll kneel before my mother and slap yourself. You won't rise until she forgives you. I couldn't help but laugh. Feng Shuyuan, you're out of your mind. The garden was bustling with activity. Madame Feng had practically invited every lady and young miss she knew. Though billed as a flower viewing, the blooms were ordinary. Nothing special. Her true intentions lay elsewhere. Spotting me from afar, her voice grew louder. My son is simply too outstanding, she clung to death to marry him. Barely literate. Knows no manners. Eats 5 meals a day. 6 bowls per sitting. A wave of laughter erupted. Some even doubled over in exaggerated hilarity. Si Qingyu, standing behind Mrs. Feng, had been laughing too. But when our eyes met, she instantly froze, unable to continue. I'd left her with a psychological shadow. I stepped forward to greet her, Mrs. Feng. Her face hardened. She gave a haughty snort, waiting for more. But after my greeting, I simply walked off to admire the flowers. Wasn't I invited here to admire the flowers? When Mrs. Feng saw I wasn't responding and was instead enjoying the blooms, her expression darkened. She sneered sarcastically. Typical country bumpkin, no manners whatsoever. I looked at her and asked boldly, Madam, are you referring to me? She snorted coldly and gave a subtle signal. A matronly servant by her side spoke up, Miss Wang. It's best you know your place. Being the young mistress of the Feng household isn't so easy. I suppose your family was too busy making ends meet to teach you proper etiquette. This old servant will take the liberty of instructing you on behalf of our mistress. The old woman casually snapped off a twig and walked toward me. I couldn't fathom where she got her nerve. I was twice her size. Did she really think she could discipline me? First, proper standing posture. She raised her hand to strike my thigh. I slapped her across the face. I'd intended to kick her, but feared I might kill her. Still, the slap carried considerable force. She crashed to the ground, spitting out 2 teeth, her mouth filled with blood. Ah! Good heavens! People screamed, staring at me in disbelief. They couldn't fathom how I dared cause such a scene in front of my future in-laws. Especially since I looked like such a hard sell. The old maid landed right at Si Qingyu's feet, triggering her bad memories. She stammered, "If you hit her." "You can't hit me." Madame Fang's face turned ashen. "How dare you? How dare you?" I sneered coldly. "What kind of person do you think you are? Lecturing me? Is this the upbringing of the Feng family? I am your future mother-in-law." She yelled, pointing at me. "When I tell you to stand, you stand. When I tell you to kneel, you kneel." I scoffed, "Not for much longer." She was baffled. Feng Shuyuan stepped forward quickly, frowning at me. "Have you lost your mind? Kneel down and apologize to my mother immediately. Get lost." I shoved him away. He was so weak, I barely used any force before he sprawled flat on his back. Madame Feng hurried to help him up. Her voice filled with venom as she cursed me. "You shrew. You shrew. Our Feng family must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to marry you into our family." As I turned to leave, Feng Shuyuan snapped. "Wang Meili, if you don't apologize to my mother, don't blame me for cutting you off." I halted and glanced back at him. His expression softened slightly as he mellowed his tone. "I knew you'd see reason. Here's the deal, kowtow 3 times to my mother, and she'll let today's incident slide." Madame Feng lifted her chin, giving me a haughty glance. I was so furious I laughed. "I forgot to tell you," I said. "I used the reward His Majesty promised me last time to cancel the arranged marriage. He's already agreed." Feng Shuyuan froze. Madame Feng also stiffened, but quickly sneered. "Stop lying. Everyone knows this match was begged for by your father, clinging to the emperor's mercy." No sooner had Lady Feng finished speaking than a servant scrambled over, panting, to announce the arrival of Prince Jing'an. Lady Feng beamed with delight. "His Royal Highness has condescended to grace this humble flower banquet with his presence." She glanced at Feng Shuyuan. "The prince must have heard of your fine reputation and wishes to befriend you." Feng Shuyuan feigned composure, yet his eyes and brows betrayed his delight. "Wang Meili," he said to me, "hurry away from there. Don't let the prince see you, he detests you most." I stood rooted to the spot. Lady Feng ordered servants to drag me away. Ha! They couldn't budge me an inch. Amidst the shoving, Prince Jing'an, Xiao Zijin, arrived. Madame Feng and Feng Shuyuan forgot all about me, baring their teeth as they rushed to greet him. "Your Royal Highness graces us with your presence. We failed to meet you properly." Xiao Zijin walked straight past them. His gaze landed precisely on me. Our eyes met, and the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "I have come to deliver an imperial decree," he stated. Madame Feng and Feng Shuyuan exchanged puzzled looks. I understood immediately. It was the decree annulling the betrothal, choosing this very day for it. How utterly perfect! Everyone knelt as Xiao Zijin read the decree aloud. It was lengthy, the emperor listing numerous excuses, all blaming me, claiming his frequent reversals were beyond his control. As the decree progressed, the expressions on Mrs. Feng and Feng Shuyuan's faces gradually froze. They finally realized I hadn't lied. Feng Shuyuan instinctively looked at me, his face filled with bewilderment. Mrs. Feng didn't know whether to feel happy or sad. She had always disapproved of this marriage. Yet having her disliked daughter-in-law initiate the annulment made her feel humiliated. What right did I have to look down on her son? What was I like? And what was her son like? Xiao Zijin said. This prince must now deliver the imperial decree to the Marquis of Loyal Courage's residence. Miss Wang, please accompany me back. He stepped forward to support me. His usual persona was aloof and reserved. Such a small gesture was already a surprising departure from his usual demeanor. Whispers spread through the crowd. How could the prince dislike Miss Wang? Is he courting her? Why is the prince delivering the imperial decree? He has nothing to do with this. Am I mistaken? Why does the prince seem rather pleased? After news of Feng Shuyuan and my broken engagement spread, he faced another wave of ridicule. How pitiful. He came to confront me, demanding why I'd rather forfeit the imperial gift than accept the match. Didn't he say he liked me? He couldn't understand it, assuming I had some unspoken reason. I've changed my mind, I said. He froze, asking who I was referring to. I told him directly, Prince Jing'an. He wore an expression of utter bewilderment. Prince Jing'an? You've got some nerve. How could he possibly like you? Whether he likes me or not doesn't matter. As long as His Majesty grants the marriage. He scoffed. Do you think Prince Jing'an is like our family? That he'll just grant a marriage whenever you say so? Are you out of your mind? I'm already the best man you could ever marry. And you just walk away? Wang Meili. You'll regret this. I crossed my arms, glaring at him coldly. Whether I regret it or not has nothing to do with you. Funny, didn't your family always look down on me? What are you doing now? Don't tell me you're reluctant. Ha. Reluctant? He sounded like he'd heard the biggest joke ever. Stop flattering yourself. I couldn't be happier. My mother's already picking an auspicious date. Soon. I'll be marrying my cousin. His expression was exaggerated, his eyes sparkling with pure, unadulterated bragging. My expression remained unchanged. Oh. Congratulations. He looked as if he'd been doused with a bucket of cold water. His high spirits instantly plummeted. Gritting his teeth, he spat. Just pretend. You'll regret it later. Feng Shuyuan and Si Qingyu's wedding day was set for the 12th of next month. For reasons unknown, the Feng family sent an invitation to ours as well. My mother tossed it into the chicken coop as usual. But her composure had shattered. I was the one who ended the engagement. Yet the one rejected rushed into marriage. And I remained a bachelor. The more anxious she grew, the gentler she became, a gentleness laced with murderous intent. Even my grandmother dared not speak to her. Who is this better candidate you mentioned? My mother asked me. I repeated my answer, you'll find out in time. Truth be told, I was anxious too. Eating less than before. A prince marrying into a family, such a precedent had never existed throughout history. I feared Xiao Zijin couldn't handle it. But he swore to me, vowing he would succeed. Then I didn't see him for over half a month. Until the day Feng Shuyuan and Si Qingyu were married. He led palace attendants to my home. He must have dressed up specially, eyebrows groomed, beard shaved, clad in crimson brocade robes, radiating festive cheer from head to toe. My mother, now experienced, whispered to me, he's not here to arrange a marriage for you. Is he? It's possible. My mother's eyes brimmed with hope. When the imperial decree first praised Prince Jing'an, then praised me, her smile froze. She whipped her head around to look at me. I gave her a small smile. Then, upon hearing that not only was a marriage between me and Prince Jing'an being arranged, but that Prince Jing'an was to become a son-in-law by marriage into our family, she nearly fainted. Of course. The emperor gave a reason. Prince Jing'an was cursed. To lift the curse, he must marry into the household of a woman born on the X day of the X month and the X hour. Otherwise, he would bleed from all 7 orifices. His intestines would rot, and he would die. The reason was thorough, but utterly ridiculous. My mother looked utterly unconvinced. Grandma, the emperor is even more superstitious than I am. Second uncle quickly covered her mouth. Second aunt shot me a complicated look and said sourly, "Our Wang family is actually producing a princess consort." Ah San dashed to my side. Kneeling on one knee with his right hand pressed to his chest, "My esteemed princess consort. I shall forever follow you." Ada and Ah air seethed with impotent rage. Arg. Damn it! Third brother beat us to it again. I saw Xiao Zijin off at the gate. He dismissed the palace attendants first. "I'll take you somewhere," he said, looking at me. We walked side by side, shoulders brushing, hands hanging at our sides until they touched by accident. Then he secretly took my hand. He held it only for a moment before letting go. I turned my head to look at him. "I'm already overthinking things," he said. I silently turned my head away, though my heart was filled with joy. How could His Majesty have agreed? I asked him. He replied, "I had no choice. I gave too much." Only then did I realize he had traded his fiefdom with the emperor. His Majesty couldn't refuse even a little. I gasped. "That's too great a sacrifice." He shrugged indifferently. "So from now on, I'll rely on you to support me." The sound of drums and music came from ahead. I looked over and saw Feng Shuyuan's wedding procession. Si Qingyu's family home was far away, and time was tight, so she was marrying at the Feng family's outer estate. They had already picked up the bride and were now heading to the Feng residence. The wedding maid distributed sugared almonds and wedding cakes along the way, followed by many people seeking good fortune. I looked at Xiao Zijin in confusion. He glanced toward the tavern across the street. Before long, two groups of servants from the Jing'an prince's mansion appeared opposite the wedding procession, banging gongs, beating drums, and playing music. The two leading figures shouted, "Congratulations to the Jing'an prince for marrying into the Wang family and uniting with the eldest daughter of the Wang household." Another shouted, "A marriage decreed by His Majesty. A match made in heaven, let the people rejoice together." Then someone began tossing out copper coins. Copper coins! The crowd went wild with joy, forgetting all about the Feng family's wedding candies and pastries. They surged forward en masse, showering blessings as if they were free. "Congratulations to Prince Jing'an. Congratulations to Miss Wang. The prince and the maiden are destined by heaven. A perfect match. May the prince and princess soon be blessed with children, and a house full of descendants." Xiao Zijin bowed his hands in gratitude to the crowd. Feng Shuyuan, mounted on his horse, shot me a stunned look. My stature was still quite conspicuous in the crowd. His expression darkened. Every trace of a smile vanished from his face. Even as he rode away, he kept glancing back. Xiao Zijin asked, "Satisfied?" He must have learned of Feng Shuyuan's reckless remarks in my presence. I replied, "Satisfied. But promise me you'll never do such a thing again." It was utterly shameful. I thought the matter would simply fade away. Yet that evening, Feng Shuyuan came running to our home. He had suddenly reneged during the wedding ceremony, abandoning his bride and racing straight to my house. My father was recounting to me and mother the scene when Xiao Zijin petitioned for the imperial decree granting our marriage. At the time, the emperor nearly thought his ears were deceiving him. He asked 3 times in succession, "No. How could you possibly fancy the Wang family's daughter? She's so large." He gestured, then turned to reassure my father. "I mean no offense, Your Majesty. Pure curiosity." Xiao Zijin replied calmly, "Your servant simply prefers larger ones." This left the emperor utterly speechless. My father, an honest man, blushed fiercely recounting this. He must have imagined something rather improper. Feng Shuyuan stood outside my door, pouring out his heart. "Meili, don't marry Prince Jing'an. I only realized today, I've loved you all along. You're so unique, so fierce." During the wedding ceremony, my mind was filled with your image. I slapped him across the face. He shut up, his eyes brimming with tears. You never liked me. Yes, I said. Then I added, Feng Shuyuan. We began with a slap. And now we end with one. Leave. Stop clinging to me. He wiped his tears and shouted, I could marry into your family too. Mei Li. I could marry into your family. The Prince of Jing'an is a prince after all. How could he possibly willingly marry into a family? He must not be truly willing. Ah! He suddenly gasped in shock. Xiao Zijin had appeared without warning, hoisting him onto his shoulders. Who told you this prince wasn't willing? You don't know, do you? Becoming a son-in-law was something I begged the emperor for with great difficulty. Feng Shuyuan flailed his arms and legs. Put me down. Put me down. Xiao Zijin sneered coldly, eat more. Weakling! He carried Feng Shuyuan all the way back to the Feng residence, forcing him and Si Qingyu to go through the wedding ceremony. Si Qingyu was so grateful she nearly knelt before him. I never saw them again after that. But I heard Feng Shuyuan and Si Qingyu argued constantly. To win his heart back, Si Qingyu actually copied me, stuffing herself into a big, fat kid. But she didn't exercise, just pure fat. Her temper changed too. All that gentle kindness vanished. And she'd slap Feng Shuyuan across the face at the slightest provocation. Feng Shuyuan actually got a kick out of being hit and agreed to live peacefully with her. The most heartbroken was Feng Shuyuan's mother. She'd always disliked Si Qingyu, finding only her looks, figure, and personality somewhat tolerable. Now, all that was gone. Not only did she hit her son, but she also showed her little respect. Though I never married into the Feng family, Mrs. Feng got her wish. She was scared out of her wits every day. The Feng household was in constant upheaval. But Feng Shuyuan reveled in it. A year later, Xiao Zijin and I were married. On our wedding night, I ordered him to strip completely for my inspection. Just as he described. Very good. Reward time. I produced a small leather whip. His already burning gaze grew even more frenzied. Then we broke the bed. The end.